Hello there. Thank you for joining me. I come to you from Sophia Sanctuary, my home in the woods. I love the sounds here. Natural sounds are definitely my vibe. I don't like the sounds of the city. I'm not into man-made noise, other than the beautiful noises that can come out of our mouths. But this video isn't about sound, it's about the noise in our minds. There is so much in this matrix that seems to want to pull at our attention, at our awareness, at everything we know we are in exchange for all of these streams of information, current events. There is so much content out there, and if we're not careful with what we let into our minds, we become poisoned. And then we might blame the world. We might say, well, the world is so messed up, and why do I have to deal with all of these crazy things that go on? And yet nobody was ever forcing you, or I, to direct your consciousness anywhere. When you go into the public square, people say, oh, goodness gracious, this politician and this agenda, and it's so corrupt, and look what's happening to the economy, and look what's happening here. Yes, there are problems here, and sometimes those problems directly affect us. But guess what? You aren't going to be the one to solve the woes of the world. I assure you, the woes of the world are here so that we can learn. This is a karmic playground. So anything that seems to be rooted in evil or in pure destruction is actually coming from a very divine place. And it's up to us to discern what we should let into our lives, and therefore what we should be concerned about, and what we shouldn't. And to me, I would rather be concerned about what's in my control. We all can't control much of anything else but ourselves. And this sounds obvious, but it needs to be known and actualized. Right here, right now, no matter what state you're in, you have the ability to control your mind, to control your body, at least some facets of it. You can control the noise. You can turn it down a notch. But in order to do that, it doesn't just take a wish. It takes following the intention to clean ourselves up, to clean ourselves of the poison and the muck. There are so many worries about what's been lost in the past. There are many anxieties about what's yet to come in the future. And meanwhile, we're alive. Even though there is so much noise, we are always here right now. A lot of us don't feel very good in the here and now because we, well, pay too much attention to the noise of the world. And in paying attention to the noise of the world, we construct a paradigm within the limitations of mundane existence. And meanwhile, as the world talks about the then and the over there, here we are. We are alive. We are journeying through time. You probably call yourself awakened or a truther if you watch my videos. To me, awakening has everything to do with the constant revelations we have that allow a death of the old. We need to be breaking free from patterns, from routines, from all limitations that anchor us to a kind of bland, lifeless existence. The ways of the world can be so cunning. Before we know it, we can get wrapped up in things that have nothing to do with us. And most of the information, most of the content, most of the goddamn noise out there is simply an attempt to lure in your consciousness. So instead of residing in this beautiful sacred space of contemplation, you instead are now sick with illusion. When we step outside of the herd's ways, when we stop being sheeple, we notice that people are so tied up in constructs that no one is forcing them to be tied up in. Modern civilization does a pretty pathetic job at luring in those who are truly aware of themselves, aware of what's happening emotionally, mentally, and physically, and thus spiritually. We have nobody to blame but ourselves when it comes to how we feel and how we live. Earth is a karmic playground. Everything we experience is absolutely karmic and thus ordained. And I know there are many ideas that we are in a prison planet and oh my goodness, look at the bad guys. But this is the very dualistic reality that pulls us away from the actual reality of immortal, timeless magic. Of course, these words sound like poo-poo. They sound like stupid New Age babble or some poetic nonsense to those who pride themselves on being in the know and being so mature and being a stable member of society. How's that working out, huh? It doesn't seem to be working out for most people. For a world that tries to claim itself as so normal, it's batshit crazy. Nobody is forcing us to pay attention to the shadows casted on Platos Cave. We are the ones who tether ourselves to the muck and the conflict and the poison of this world. And when we do this, we inevitably produce all of these interpersonal dramas with ourselves and with others. When we don't feel very stable and centered in ourselves, this is the greatest sign that we have taken on too much illusion. And the only way illusion can stay attached to our various energetic bodies is if we are running away from authenticity. When I say authenticity, I'm not talking about doing whatever you want. To be authentic with oneself is to look in the mirror and confront what needs to be confronted. Many people have addictions. Many people don't really feel as if their life is meaningful. And the meaning, we've been told, is bestowed from out here to in here. Society or other people delegate you as important. You are nothing without, well, these attachments to society, or at least that's the standard narrative. But fuck the standard narrative. I'm a wild monkey boy. I will do as I please. I will be as I am. Problems are here, okay? Problems exist. But the best way to deal with problems is, when they arise, confront them. And if a problem is within your control to solve, then you are the solution. But alas, most people seem to be constantly consumed with the various things they hear about that might eventually have something to do with them, but don't really have anything to do with them. And if they do have anything to do with them, then the things that have something to do with them that are out of people's control are out of their control. We can focus on what is within our control. We can't control the world, and we've all learned at some point in our lives that when we try to control the behavior of others, when we try to mend together things we did not break, we just end up stressing ourselves out. There is a call to fix the world. Always. Look at this thing. It's so messed up. Look at that thing. Isn't that upsetting? No. No, these are just shadows on Plato's Cave. Let us not let the noise of the world infiltrate our sacred spaces of contemplation. The now moment is absolutely wonderful, and being alive is so very dreamlike, so very strange. But in order for us to widen our inner space, we have to observe the limitations we've been in. And once we see where we've been limited, we can then rise like the phoenix from the ashes. This does take effort. This does take discipline. This does take honesty. Approach existence with ease, or be victimized by it. You are not bound to the frustrations of the world. And guess what? If a societal collapse happens like everyone has been saying it will, well, let's see what happens. I'm game. I'm not going to binge watch a bunch of Alex Jones and get myself in a tizzy. I'm alive, and that's all I know. And you are alive. And if you're honest with yourself, most of what you hear you know not much about. You think you know. So maybe you should be what you know you are, and not try to be what you think this world hopes you should be. The noise of the world is akin to shadows on Plato's Cave. We all know what it's like to be in Plato's Cave, and I think more of us need to know what it's like to exit Plato's Cave. There is a gorgeous world outside of the shadows that we think we have to pay attention to, but in order for us to disconnect, we have to want to open ourselves up to an expanded state. Truthfully, some people would rather be in limitation. Some people are quite intimidated of the divine, and that's okay. But it's not okay for me. I always want to leave the shadows that I or another projects onto the walls of Plato's Cave. If you've seen my videos, you know that I'm not really into current events. I think all of them have a poetic quality behind the external mayhem, and I have better things to do. Here we are in time, and time is running out. So if I'm going to really break free, Why would I want to tether myself to the woes of the world? It only creates more woes for myself. A lot of people, they pray to the divine. They think they are prey. They say, "Oh God," or "Oh divine," or "Oh source, please make things better." And the divine is not separate from you. Which means, if you ask something of the divine and then you don't follow that, if you don't follow up, then you make an ass out of yourself and nothing happens. So, let's stop making asses of ourselves, and we have to constantly wake up from the slumbers we fall into. I'm in a process I call infinite awakening. Whenever there's any stagnation that I sense, whenever there's any pattern that feels limiting, I decide to snap out of it. I decide to let that die, and therefore I can approach my exit, whether it's death or something else, with ease and with courage. So this is just a little message. The noise of the world does not own you. And although there are problems here, the biggest problem you have is the problem of your soul, the problem of your consciousness. So how about we solve that? And then maybe the noise of the world might actually seem kind of funny. And you know what? If there's a societal collapse like everyone is projecting, fucking bring it. I'm game. I'm not going to be the one to stop it. So instead of freaking out, I'm going to look forward to that potential level of this Matrix game. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you for joining me.